spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC Sports Podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. This episode, we got a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins that we just went through. We're going to recap that for you guys. Is there competition with the second wide receiver spot? Dan Quinn says yes. Do we agree? Should there be one? If there is one, who do we like, etc.? We'll talk about Jahan Dotson. We've got preseason game number 2 coming up against these very same Miami Dolphins, 7 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays, tomorrow. Of course, you could see it locally, but immediately, otherwise you have to wait until it's on NFL Network. And so, yeah, that's it. And we quickly touch on roster moves, of course, that occurred this week. So before we begin that episode, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do. Got a lovely comment mailbag today. And K-Dot.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, District Divided would like to present to you the best Commanders podcast in the world, the Reverend K-Dot, the cocaine sniffing A-Train, the District Divided podcast. And if you're down with us, we got 3 words for you. Share this shit. Just share it, baby.
Share.
All right. Now, with preseason among us, we got to remember, it's a coming. It's a coming. 23 days. Bring Owens, baby. One of the greatest. One of the greatest ever. Strap up at the burgundy and gold. Now, I do have to say this. So every week, I got to look for players with the number, whatever. So I was looking at 23. Could have went D-Hall easily. But I was like, you know what? Let's go back. You know, Dan Quinn likes to look back in the past. So I'm going to look back. I did find another guy that ordered number 23. Now, I heard about this dude, but I realized after looking him up that I think he'd be your favorite player, like, of all time.
Okay.
So, meet Tony Peters.
All
Look
right.
at the swag on this motherfucker.
I do love Tony Peters already.
Look at this dude right here. You see the glasses? You see the sunglasses on the fucking trading card?
You're right. I would fucking love this guy.
This dude was the shit. Now, there's another reason I think he would be your favorite player. I'm just going to read this right quick to you about Tony Peters. So Tony Peters, a Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion with the Redskins, was arrested in 1983 at Redskins training camp in Carlisle, Pennsylvania for involvement in purchasing $3,000 in cocaine from an undercover DEA agent as part of an overall $115,000 drug-selling conspiracy. He pled guilty, so probation was suspended by the NFL. After reinstatement, he became a very successful coach and a teacher. He now lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a little bit about Tony Peters. You know why he's your favorite, Amit? I'm just saying. Hang
on. Let me make a quick clarification. He's A-Train's favorite. He is A-Train's favorite. Okay. For anyone watching this, he is A-Train's favorite. I am of it.
I was mad at Joe Gibbs, like just after morning prayer, DEA shows up. Where's Tony?
That's actually incredible. You're right. He is certainly A-Train's favorite player, but Amit loves stories like that. I mean, that's awesome. I'm definitely going to read more about Tony Peters. I appreciate you bringing Tony Peters to my attention. There's no easy way to transition to just simple roster moves after an electric story like that. But I mean,
no, totally is. I got it.
Go ahead.
Drugs. Martavis Bryant.
And we got a new wide receiver, 6'4". Okay. Speedster. Hasn't played in the league since 2018. We did sign Martavis Bryant. Yeah, what a segue there. We did sign Martavis Bryant. He's going to be with us for the rest of training camp as we figure out what we have at the wide receiver position. Again, we will talk about that a bit later. We were also dealing with a couple of quarterback injuries right now. So Marcus Mariota, a bit dinged up. Sam Hartman also hurt. So they have not practiced. They weren't in the joint practice, and they're not going to be playing in the preseason game. So then we sign Trace McSorley, who is also a local Cap, but we had to make room for those two players. So in order to make room for Trace McSorley and Martavis Bryant, we ended up letting go of Ramiz Ahmed, who was the kicker from the UFL that came over here. Apparently his kicks are just too low, or what some of the reports are. And so they were like, hey, we don't feel we can trust that. And so they let him go, leaving only Riley Patterson as our kicker for the time being. The other two moves we made, letting go of two different offensive linemen in Mason Brooks and Alex Akingbalu, I believe is how it's properly pronounced. And so, yeah, we will see what continues to happen over here. Lots of injuries around the NFL, but knock on wood, so far, for the most part, relatively speaking, it's been good. So just wanted to quickly touch on those roster moves. K-Dot, any thoughts on those before we move on to what we heard from the joint practice?
Nah, everything's kind of pitted around the way I thought it would. Like, I still think that if I had to put money on it, I think I've heard John Keim say the same thing. Our kicker's not on the roster yet. Brandon McManus fucked it all up. And I think everything was just like, yeah, until McManus shows us he can't do it, that's just the guy you're rolling with. And that's the thing, is like they just want to see enough to make them feel comfortable going into the season. I just don't think when you look across the league, there are a lot of these teams with multiple kickers. Once these guys start getting cut, you'll probably see some more guys here in the building. So I'd like to feel better about that position, but I think it is what it is, and kicking should be eliminated from football anyway.
Well, okay. Well, let that last part go for a moment. But what I will say is Riley Patterson did miss his kick in the last preseason game. Mm-hmm. Now, he did bounce back in the joint practice and in practice this week, going 3 for 3, a couple from 50 plus. So it's good. And he kicked in the NFL last season. So there is at least some experience over there and some trust from a couple other teams in Cleveland and Detroit. But to echo what K-Dot said, to echo what John Keim said, I think pretty strong chance our kicker is on another team right now for week 1. So we'll, of course, see what happens there. K-Dot, seems like you had a reaction there.
How hard is it? Right? Like,
I've got my cleats. I'm telling you, I can go do it.
You got one job, dog. One job. Ball uprights. Put it through it. Like, that's it. Like, that's
well, and kick it high, because Ramiz was doing that. To be fair, he was ball upright and just low.
I'm just saying, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, dude. And the thing is, like, the crossover between, well, whatever you're seeing in practice does not necessarily translate the game. Nobody's hitting you. Just kick the fucking ball.
Kick the fucking ball. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about someone throwing the ball over a joint practice. So our second overall pick continues to shine. There's no other real way to say it. He threw a couple picks yesterday, Jayden Daniels did. But then a reporter clarified that Cole Turner actually had the ball in his hands, gets hit, ball pops up. That's one interception. The other interception to Kendall Fuller, shout out. Terry McLaurin slipped. So all of a sudden there's tons of space. Kendall gets it. That's it. Other than that, he's slicing and dicing these guys in red zone drills. The Dolphins media, I decided to look at that. I did this with the Jets media last week just to see what do others think who are seeing Jayden for the first time. I'm not going to sugar. They were wowed. Like, a lot of them were just like, wait, hang on. What the fuck is going on here? There was an expectation that the Dolphins defense was going to do a hell of a lot better, that they were going to, at minimum, be 60-40 in their favor. Right. Let alone what we did. It must be noted, Dan Quinn has said in various interviews that we work on red zone a whole lot. That was the very first thing we worked on. So I expected that we would be good in red zone drills. It's cool to see that it is translating against other teams. Let's quickly first start with the quarterback, Jayden Daniels. K-Dot, what did you think of his performance from what we heard?
Yeah, what we heard was everything with me. Like, once again, coming out of hype season, keeping it schmedium. So, like, we all felt on cloud 9 with that 42-yard just dropping the bucket, right? And change the play. It's already become legendary, right? Buzzing the tower, right? And then you go into this, and it's like, holy shit, do we have a Hall of Fame quarterback? And I pump the brakes, all right? Like, everybody went to there were 5 touchdowns in a row.
I think 5 total, might have been in a row.
I thought I heard it was consecutively. But
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, the way it's been going.
Yeah. So listening to Dolphins meeting and everything, it's the thing I keep coming back to is when you look at the more measured responses and knowing that like nothing you're seeing right now means anything other than, all right, maybe where is he in his progress, right? And the thing that it keeps going back to, and they talked to Kendall Fuller about it, because I mean Kendall doesn't have any overlap really with Jayden, but he knows the rest of the guys on the team, is he seems like a pro. He handles himself like a vet. Those are the things you want to know or you want to hear as far as looking at his progression and everything, right? Like he saw shit, man. I think I said last preseason, I don't remember the last time I seen a quarterback on our team check out of something good and something good happened. Like, number one, having the ability to do that. Number two, knowing what to do, getting everybody on the same page, and then executing to a high level. I don't remember this for a minute. And just to see, it just seems as though we keep going back to like some of the same cliches or anything about him, but it's like nothing seems too big for him. And this is where we're at. And it just seems as though, like, if you had to say anything, it's like, dude's ahead of schedule. Yeah. Like that's that. I think that's where you go, is like, hey, we have no idea what it's going to look like long-term. We have no idea what any of these, there's so many variables, but as far as his take on it, as far as where he's at in his process, he's ahead of schedule. We're not hearing anything about when's the last time we've actually legitimately heard somebody debating about who should start week one? I don't think anybody, I think everybody's just like, yeah, we all know.
And the Mariota injury has put an exclamation point on it, where it's like, this guy's clearly,
it's over, right? So like, and the thing is like, it's not, and I'm not hearing about it in the sense of like the assets, the assets spent to go to do this. The fact that he's a second overall pick and then being pressure in that, I'm not hearing that at all. It's just, yeah, no, he commands the offense and everybody's kind of following him. And it's just like, if we had to pick the best guy for the job to just execute, he looks like he's just the best guy for the job to execute.
Right. And you've got, look, it's the NFL. People want to produce immediately. Terry McLaurin's been here for so long, played with so many different quarterbacks. I'm sure it is energizing for him to be able to play with the guy that's putting it on the money. Terry caught multiple touchdowns of those 5, just to be clear. So that's why I mentioned him, of course. I wanted to quickly note, we had offensive tackles at this practice, which we did not at the last one. So Andrew Wiley started at right tackle, and at left tackle, we had Cornelius Lucas. Now, Brandon Coleman made the trip. He was in pads, but I don't believe he actually participated in the practice itself, at least with the team. So it might have been individual stuff. Okay. But we had 2 tackles, and apparently Jayden looked quite comfortable. So that is important to note. The thing I'm monitoring with Jayden this entire season, KDOT, is his confidence, right? And we've seen what it can do for people, and we've seen what it can do when it's not there. This goes to Jahan Dotson, who we'll speak about. This goes to Emanuel Forbes. This goes to Jamin Davis. This goes to Carson Wentz, right, from back in the day. Like, confidence is everything. So far with Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels, that confidence seems to be there. We talk about a rookie quarterback, preseason week 1, first drive, 3rd and 6, checking out of something and finding success based on what he sees. Everything is great right now. It is so important that we maintain his confidence levels. And so that is where, guys, it's very important that Cliff Kingsbury is doing his job properly. It's very important that Bobby Johnson, offensive line coach, is doing his job properly as well. And that run game is going. So there's a lot of stuff around Jayden. You get excited about Jayden. I get excited about Jayden. Let's be real. We're all excited about him. Are we doing the things around him to make sure that he feels good? And so that's something I'm going to be monitoring.
The more I'm getting to know this dude, the more I'm thinking confidence is not going to be an issue. I think this is something like leading up to the draft. I think you were more on point with like the way that he kind of carries himself.
Yes.
Look, you got different quarterbacks carry themselves a lot of different ways. You got like consummate professionals that'll talk quietly. You got the dudes that are more locker room dudes, get more people around them. You got your Eli Mannings who just have dumb, goofy looks on their faces the entire way through and don't really say much. Jayden's just smiling. That dumb fucking grin.
It's $1 million smile, man.
Just constantly, where it's like, ain't nothing that fucking happy, dog. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, chill. I think that's what I'm going to be measuring, right? Is like, because then I heard a story about back when he was at ASU that like after he threw a pick, he was still fucking smiling.
Yep.
And it was like, this is who he's having fun. And as long as he's continuing to have fun, I really do think everything is kind of pointing in that right direction. My thing is that, like, if I see that smile go away, I don't think it'll be a comment. I just think it'll be, this is no longer fun for me. And I think what's fun for him is like the challenge of trying something new, the challenge of seeing that, like, oh, my work paid off on this thing, and this is where I'm learning, and this is what I'm doing, or just showing out and showing like I'm better than everybody else. Like,
certainly.
I think the moment that you stop seeing that smile is the moment that I'd be concerned. Kind of akin to the Terry McLaurin thing, right?
Right.
Which was like last year, the smile went away. And when the smile went away, it was like, ew.
Yeah. No, that's for anybody. He's still a human being at the end of the day. And K-Dot, I mean, we've got it documented. Anyone wants to look back. I've been beating this Jayden Daniels drum forever. And just like totally enamored with the guy. I think he is. I think we nailed the pick. I still feel we got the best quarterback in the draft. What I will say is, like, the media attention he's gotten so far has been positive. That dates back to LSU as well, right? It's a Heisman Trophy run. So everything in the media is amazing. Jayden Daniels, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He will face some adversity here. How does he handle that when things aren't going well? If Caleb's doing really well, if Drake's doing really well. Like, I am trying to, this is me pumping the brakes for myself. Just to be clear, because
no chance, man. No break.
Because
that Offspring song. No
I'm rocking it, man. I mean, listen, I love the guy. I think he's going to be great. I'm just pointing out stuff we need to look out for, because as of right now, everything's coming back positive, man.
Shout out to JJ McCarthy. Love you, bro.
Yeah.
I did like he dropped Latin in the tweet. Smart with good guy.
Wait, say it again.
He dropped some Latin in the tweet.
Oh, he did. I didn't even see the tweet.
He's a cultured man.
Yeah, I mean, he slayed your interview process.
And then his meniscus.
And then his meniscus. And so he will be missing the entirety of the season. To be fair, did look very good in that first preseason game after throwing the pick. Immediately took off. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, is this? Like, he looked good. He looked good. So we'll see what happens come 2025. That does suck. That does honestly suck for JJ, for the Vikings, etc. We'll see what happens there. I wanted to point out on the defensive side, I know we were talking a lot about Jayden. Mikey Sainristil is also coming out with all positive reviews. Apparently guarding Tyreek Hill in the red zone and holding his own. Maybe even doing a bit more than that. Can we talk about Mikey Sainristil for a minute? And also shout out Adam Peters so far, because these rookies, like we were talking about, we want to see good things from them. It's just preseason and training camp right now, but I can't remember the last time, K-Dot, even this early on, that we were getting nice reviews from multiple rookies, right? So that's Sainristil. That's going to be Jayden, of course. I think the Senator is getting some nice stuff. You see the run he had last week, the catch and run. Tyler Owens, undrafted free agent. Like, it seems like we got a nice general manager, but Mikey Sainristil in specific, please speak on him, because, man, he looks like a real one.
He looks like a real one. Hearing that, like, what I heard, I think specifically was, if there was anyone that showed that they had the ability to kind of limit Tyreek Hill and what he was able to do, it was Mike Sainristil. So it was noticeable when he was on him that things were not as productive for Hill. So that's big. I try to as far as the positive news about rookies coming out, it does happen every year. It happens every year. It happens every fucking year. I started doing some digging.
Thank you. I'm glad you did this, because maybe I need to hear this too.
Like, it's just a matter of like where the line or the threshold is for you to either believe or not believe. But it's like, usually you're hearing a lot of glowing things, and every once in a while you'd hear like a practice went not so great, or this guy didn't have. It's just normal, man. We're in this up and down period, baby. So like, it's like I go back to, you're looking for moments, right? When I talk about like the preseason game, I'm looking at body language, I'm looking at moments.
Right.
And I'm trying to make sure that we can pile up enough good things on both of those things that say, okay, we're making progress. Mike Sainristil is a dude that's having both of those things, right? Wonderful body language, wonderful the way that he talks to the media, wonderful the way he carries himself. But then you keep hearing all these other ways, like, yeah, no, Sainristil held his own, or Sainristil had this, he had a pass breakup here that was like really, really good. You're just hearing a lot of those compounding moments happening there for him. And it's a dude that we were really, really high on as soon as we drafted him. Although him, fuck you, Matt Regan. There's just, I don't know. You take everything with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But like what I'm hearing now is that like Sainristil's playing at a level so high that there might be a conversation. Do you want to put him on the outside?
Right.
Like that's the kind of shit that I'm like, cool. And like, that's the thing is like looking at some of the rookies in preseason, like you've seen them have their individual moments. You go back to what it is that Luke did. You go back to what it is the Senator did.
The Senator. Thank you.
But Mike is just, it's like we said even before really the top of training camp. I thought it would be super successful if you didn't really hear Mike's name all that much, right? Because he's one of those dudes. He probably not going to have a ton of interceptions or anything playing the way he does. But the fact is that he's doing that stuff and you're hearing his name.
Right.
It's like he's excelling at it at a level at which you cannot not notice.
I think one other rookie I want to mention, and he hasn't played in the joint practices or the preseason games yet. Maybe he'll get some time in this one. I'm not sure, actually. But Brandon Coleman has also had some positive reviews. When I put that against what I'm hearing and seeing from our pass rush, it looks like they are getting to QBs, which is encouraging. And then you hear that Brandon Coleman's doing a good job against them. Right. So I think that is probably a good sign moving forward for our another third round pick. So we'll see. Again, left tackle is a very, very hard thing to solve, let alone trying to do it with a third rounder.
But once again, up and down, right? Because It was not a week ago that we were hearing that the defensive ends didn't look that great. They weren't really generating a whole ton of shit. But the interior line always showing up. Then I hear now like Dorrance Armstrong got particularly called out that he looked good. And as Nikki said on the comment, he better as the highest paid guy that we brought in. But it's like once again, it'll ebb and flow. You don't know. There's so many variables. It's not until they can really sustain stuff over the course of a season and like learn for you to know exactly where it is they are. But this is all once again part of the process, and it seems as though this process has been extremely thorough. The coaching staff seems as though they have game plans as far as everybody, even if we're not necessarily being in the loop on that.
So thorough, in fact, that we continue to bring in new people at wide receiver. So we've talked about Martavis Bryant coming in, and then Dan Quinn was asked about the wide receiver 2 position specifically. And he ends up going, yeah, there is a competition for this. So it brings us to, of course, the name Jahan Dotson, who there is this expectation now in this Cliff Kingsbury offense that McLaurin's going to be happy and Jahan Dotson's going to be happy. So it is not very encouraging as a fan to hear that the wide receiver 2 spot is open. Now we can take that a couple different ways. Does that mean one of the outside wide receivers and then Jahan's in the slot for sure? Or is this actually like, hey, we don't see much of a difference between a first round pick from a couple years ago and Olamide Zaccheaus, who got called out as somebody that could end up being wide receiver 2, for example, or De'Ami Brown making that catch while being held last week when the lights are on against the New York Jets. Martavis Bryant comes in and people are high on Luke McCaffrey. So K-Dot, what did you make of Dan Quinn's comments that the wide receiver 2 position is up for grabs seemingly?
I appreciate the honesty. I also appreciate the fact that it's just like we said, kind of going into this offseason. No one is safe. This coaching staff is not beholden on a goddamn person from the last regime. They're just not. They're looking for the best guys for the job. I think the thing with Dotson at this point is we saw flashes, right, over the course of since he's been here, since he got drafted in 2022. I think that what everybody's expecting at this particular point is that, like, hey, he's going to show out enough that there's no question about it, right?
Right.
And the fact is, it's not that he's doing things wrong necessarily. It's not that he's sucking. It's just that he doesn't seem special yet. Like, I think that is more what it gleans to. Terry, proof is in the pudding. He's showing up and he's showing out every single time that he goes out there.
Right.
No questions asked. It's what it is with him. But then you have this entire group of dudes, which, look, it's good in certain circumstances, in the sense of, like, maybe you have a situation where you got a lot of guys kind of overperforming, And now you're in this situation where it's like, oh, well, look, we don't know. We need to figure out who's going to be the dude that lines up across from him. I think when you bring in a guy like Brian, I think it's more of a size thing. Because that's the other thing is like they're trying to get bigger bodies or anything more in the building.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, like the Cliff King, like if you're talking about like the air raid offense, which once again, it's not necessarily what it is going to be running, but you can't look at like even the play that Jayden checked out of and into felt air raidy, right? Like those
for sure.
very long, big go routes, got the receivers just in space, kind of doing shit. The more versatility and more flexibility you have in body styles and what it is they can bring is always going to be a good thing, right? I think Dotson just needs to get some moments up. I think maybe it's because it's too open a competition, maybe it's getting to him. Sometimes you got guys that are not worried about their rate. They don't have the blinders on. They're seeing everybody else. They get kind of nervous with it all. I don't know. I still think Dotson has a lot of talent. I don't think anybody thinks that he doesn't.
No question. Yeah, he does. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Do you look like a first round pick right now? And it's like, if you're a first round pick, we want to see some like serious flashes from you. And I just don't think that anybody's saying that they're seeing that just yet. So it's just slightly disappointing.
Yeah, no, I think it's very disappointing that this is even a conversation right now. We took him in the first round, right? He gets double-digit touchdowns as a rookie. So you already see, okay, the guy belongs, right? Like, not only does he belong, but then we're expecting this big year too. Eric Bieniemy comes in, the entire offense early on looks fine, and then all of a sudden, like, after just 4 or 5 weeks, we're like, oh no, this is it, isn't it? And all of a sudden we're throwing every single play, but we're throwing a Curtis Samuel. We're like, it's like, why are we featuring him more than Terry or Jahan? Like, stuff got weird for sure. What it doesn't change is that the responsibility for year 3 lands on Jahan Dotson's feet. And at the end of this year, there is a conversation to have, because then they need to figure out, are we picking up a 5th-year option? Right? So this is a huge year for Jahan Dotson. I was listening to Standing Room Only from Ben Stanek, who also did a very good job, and appreciate that. You guys should check that one out. And he mentioned, hey, the ceiling for Jahan, of course, wide receiver 2 does very well, etc. The floor is he could get traded. And so this is a huge year for Jahan. I expect him to respond, by the way. I believe in Jahan Dotson. I like him a lot. But he does need to begin separating. Let's see how he responds. Same thing with Emanuel Forbes, which we talked about. How do you respond? That's what we're seeing with everybody. How do you respond? And to Emanuel Forbes' credit, we didn't shout him out in the last part. I didn't hear anything about him getting beat over and over and over again. All I heard was that he had a pass blocked. He ended up actually just tipping a pass. So it's good, right? Like, how is he going to respond? We're going to get into that in just a moment in the preseason expectations. But Jahan, how do you respond? So I'm curious to see what he does. Any final thoughts here before we move to the preseason expectations?
Yeah, I heard what Ben Standing said, and I think it just goes down to, once again, going into this offseason, no one is safe. At this point, it's what is the most valuable thing to us as a franchise going forward. If the right trade package arises and you're not seeing enough distance between Jahan and some of the other dudes there, you got to get value. You got to get what you can get to try to help the team out as a whole. They are not beholden to anyone here. They don't need, like, you got to earn your keep around these parts right now, guys. Like, that's just what it is. Yeah, and I think the only other thing with the Forbes thing, I've heard good things about Forbes. The only person in the secondary I heard that got beat was St. Juiced, but
yeah,
to a miss.
Yeah,
it would have been an easy 80-yard touchdown, but I mean, it's the way the ball rolls sometimes, I guess. Yeah.
Goes, flies, travels,
and that's the way the cookie crumbles.
There we go. Shout out Bruce Almighty. Let's go ahead and talk about preseason expectations. Just actually one final note on Jahan. Keep it here, though. One final note on Jahan.
You want to go back? You want to keep it here? All right, should I go back to this?
One final note on Jahan Dotson is something I was thinking about is there's a bit of it's a stretch, but it's a bit of a sneaky parallel to Brandon Ayuk and his situation, where Brandon Ayuk actually had a nice year early on, and it might have been his rookie year, might have been his sophomore year. I can't remember which one. And then was getting inexplicably benched for a while by Kyle Shanahan. And people were like, wait, hang on. What's going on over here? Like, I thought, that he was a really good wide receiver last season. Now he's barely getting snaps. He's not getting many opportunities. Jahan's getting a lot in the preseason so far. It seems like he will again. But what Kyle Shanahan really wanted to hammer home with Ayuk is how important it is to run block, how important it is to do all the little things. There have been a couple murmurs about that with Jahan, actually, when it comes to run blocking and making sure that those little things are being taken care of, aside from just running your routes, which he's very good at. Same thing with Ayuk. So I just found that to be an interesting parallel, right? We're talking about maybe trading for Ayuk. We got a guy, Jahan. It's an eerily similar storyline to me. I want to see how he responds. Could end up being fantastic. So I just wanted to say that as well.
We shall see.
We shall see. So let's go ahead and talk about that preseason game. Again, that's happening tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Saturday against the Miami Dolphins at the Miami Dolphins, second straight preseason game where we are not at home. And so, K-Dot, I will throw it over to you. What are your expectations for this game?
None. Once again, it's going to be pretty similar the entire way through fucking preseason. Looking at two things. I mean, if you guys are listening, I thought maybe I was giving you your opportunity to say it. Like, you know what I'm listening to. All right, say it to yourselves right now. Go. All right, I guess we'll say it together.
I got him.
Okay? All right. Body language and
What's the second one?
moments. That's
right.
it. Those are the things, right? All right? Body language and moments. I saw a lot that I really liked preseason game 1. To me, it was a success. I look in the preseason game 2, and I'm hoping they see the same thing. Look, from a confidence standpoint, what me and you've kind of alluded to, and I guess this is the time I can play the clip as far as like what it is that Dan Quinn has talked about, what he's doing as far as the secondary. Take it down.
Put him, into a certain spot to, simulate the size of a receiver, the speed of a receiver. So getting here now and starting with Bobby and getting the process started, we'll find out the things that he can do well, and then how we feature them into it. But he's got real size. Like the catch radius, throw it over here. He's got length to, throw it away from somebody on an option route. So those are the things, John, with somebody with that kind of size, whether it's the red zone for a guy who can get up to go, or option routes where you can throw away from a defender knowing, hey, this is incomplete or my guy's good. And then going back to the
not that quite fit where I was going, but for whatever. I should have looked at that a little more. All right,
just fine.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Dan Quinn has alluded to what he's doing as far as, especially with the Dolphins, with these Dolphins, is he's going to leave some guys out there on islands. He's going to leave some guys out there to potentially struggle or potentially get the fucking doors blown off, right? And there's no wide receiving core in the NFL that will blow your fucking doors off more than this Miami Dolphins. And I'm saying that, like, as far as me recontextualizing, as far as like expectations, whatever, if Tyreek Hill's blowing past fucking Emanuel Forbes for an 80-yard touchdown, I don't look at that as a smashing, like, fucking failure. To me, it's like all part of the process, right? As long as the coaches are looking at the end of the game and saying, I learned more about the players in my decision-making on whether or not they're going to make the 53 or what it is we need to work on with those individual guys. That's it. It's all just part of a fucking process. I don't really give. And look, I'll tell you honestly, especially even I had to take a break around the third quarter. That shit gets boring. I'm sorry. We can be honest about this, right? Preseason gets fucking boring. Like, even us that are like with our fucking notepads, like, all right, I guess that dude looked pretty good doing that. Oh yeah. Oh, Tress Way made a hit. Oh, that keeps me energized.
Which was awesome.
But it's like I can't, if I put out the same game day spread of like eats that I would during the regular season, I'm fucking knocked out cold.
The preseason games it's different. You're not doing it the same way you're doing a regular season game. It is much more the analytical, logical cap. What you're looking for stuff. It can be exhausting to consistently look for stuff, right? From every single play, every single, drive, etc. So that's certainly there. Body language and moments, to K-Dot's point. I think make a lot of sense. I'm glad you played the Dan Quinn clip because we had mentioned last week, you know what? They might be intentionally putting Emanuel Forbes on an island. They might intentionally, despite saying Jamin Davis is going to play first and second down linebacker, putting him on the edge, seeing what he does with that, how he does it. And I love it. And the reason I love it is because, one, they say doing hard shit with good people. That's exactly what's happening. So that's important. Speaks to their mantra. They're being honest with us. They're being honest with us with the wide receiver 2 competition. We've got an authentic coaching staff. That's one. And two, they are immediately putting people in pressure situations in the preseason. So by the time the regular season comes around, they've already dealt with pressure. Right. So anybody that is also saying, hey, bubble wrap Jayden Daniels and don't play him, I completely disagree. You have to let these guys play when the lights are on. You look at the best teams, they're playing them. Or at the very least, the Kansas City Chiefs are, depending on what you think of them. Patrick Mahomes is about to play an entire half. The guy's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's playing the entire half. Andy Reid runs things that way. Want to be like the other teams that are really good. So the body language moment's very important. I want to say that if Emanuel Forbes does get beat, let's talk about this for a moment, by the person everyone in the NFL ranked as their number 1 player in Tyreek Hill. I mean, I can list you. I'll compile that list even of all the corners that were beat last season by Tyreek Hill for long gains.
Yep.
And you're going to see some names on that list. You're like, oh, he got beat too. Like, the guy is incredible. Let's just be clear. And so is Jalen Waddle for that matter. They are incredible. And we are doing hard shit with good people, putting them in difficult positions. How do they respond? So it's body language moments. And within those two things, getting answered is the question, how do you respond? So I think we're more or less on the same page there, K-Dot.
Yeah, I mean, we know for a fact like how it is these guys. Well, we played them last year. And
I'm looking forward to this.
What was the stats? Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions, 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
They're good.
They're great.
They're good. Yeah.
It's the best it's the best wide receiving core in the NFL. It's just it is what it is. Like yeah, there's gonna be some struggles, but this is the fucking time to have it. As far as bubble wrap for Jayden, I'm a little on that. I'm a little bubble wrappy.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So to me, it's like the way but this goes to more fundamentally the way the NFL is just conducting themselves. Which is like the lack of contact in training camp or practice now. Preseason mattering to certain people, but not necessarily everybody, trying to get you completely up to game speed. I don't ever feel like in preseason the ones are going full tilt, like ever, because they know that, like, hey, I don't want to get hurt out this bitch. Like, so I never know if it's a full reflection of what it truly is as far as in the games. And we've been seeing more and more recently this slow sloppiness that's happening across the NFL the first few weeks of the season because the guys are getting used to having full contact at that point. The guys are getting used to getting hit the way that they need to get hit. And to me, it's like if you're taking the hits, the real hits, I'd like to know that the fucking game's counted. To me, this is more about making. If I see that Jayden's responding to the speed of the game the way he needs to, I'm good with pulling the plug.
I would actually go the other way even further and go, I hope that someone gets to him and see how he handles that. And if he gets sacked, a lot of people have questions about his size. I'm not afraid of this whole preseason thing. I think it helps with your conditioning. I think it helps you see live action. You're going against somebody else that doesn't care about your team going for it. It's as close to a simulation as you can get to what you're going to end up seeing on the Sundays. And I would love to see the data on this, being a data analyst. I would actually say that it runs counter to what people may think, in that I think you will probably see fewer injuries for the teams that actually play their guys through the preseason because
you're in more game shape.
Yeah, you're in more game shape. You're more likely to start faster. I'm sure this regime wants to start fast in terms of everything that they are preaching to their players. Right. So I'm all for play these guys. Now, I'm not saying play Jayden the whole game, just to be clear. I expect maybe 2 drives this week. So again, that actually brings up a good point. So Jeff Driscoll and Trace McSorley are going to be the other 2 quarterbacks playing. So we're playing 3 total quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Jayden play the entire game, like I just said. But I think a quarter makes sense, which is about 2 drives. And then let Jeff Driscoll play 2. And then let let McSorley play 1. I think that's a fair split. But I want these guys to be able to face some action. And in the case of Driscoll, considering how fans felt about his performance last week, how does he do this week? I think that would be interesting with Mariota dinged up right now. So that's something to look for. And then we had mentioned Jahan Dotson. How does he respond? Sounds like he's going to play a lot in this one. Is he clean with his route? Is he run blocking? Like, unfortunately, the Forbes microscope, which is what I'm going to call it, is now on Jahan Dotson. So how does he handle it with the adversity that's being thrown his way right now? So body language, to your point, and does he have his moments? K-Dot, you had mentioned that to a T in the prior segment. So
yeah, you're looking back at all the first round picks of the Ron Rivera era and mainly justify it. They're asking these guys, justify where you got picked.
Yeah.
Justify it to us why you got picked where it is you got picked.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying as far as preseason and my whole bubble wrap take on it. I just think that like I do like the idea of a ramp up. I just think that like there needs to be more physicality all around what's happening in training camp and and practice around the preseason. Really,
I agree with that.
It is. Yeah, it's always weird to me, and I think the reason Mahomes is playing the way he wants to play is because he wants to.
Yeah, I would imagine Jayden does too, though. Just to be clear.
Yeah, you ain't been around long enough to call your shot, bud. So like
well,
yeah, well, what?
We look at last week, called his own shot, 3rd and 6.
Every once in a while, Maverick need to sit his pretty happy little ass down. Okay, it is what it is.
Let's jump
Fuck around and get goose killed.
Okay, that's a good counterpoint. Why don't we go ahead and go to the comment mailbag? Is Mickey ready?
Ooh. All right, hang on. I think
okay.
Okay. Whew, almost fucked up. Did something out of order. That was disrespectful. I am so sorry. Nikki, take it away.
Comment mailbag time, motherfuckers. District divided, ain't got time for no suckers. Spread the word, get in line. OGs and new G's, it's your time. And spread the gospel, cause this shit is divine. Yeah.
Thank you, Nikki, as always. And let's go ahead and begin with just your average fly guy. Shout out with a couple comments here. Beginning with Jayden Daniels did not get permission to change that play. He didn't even ask. Jayden Daniels just made an executive decision and pulled it off. Pretty impressive in my book that a rookie QB on his first ever NFL 3rd down pulls that off. JD is that dude. JD clearly knows the offense. So that's the first one. And the second one, I can feel good because I just shared this shit on X. Shout out just your average fly guy for those 2 comments. K-Dot, your reaction to JD already being declared that dude. And just your average fly guy sharing this shit on X.
I love that everything involving Jayden Daniels over the last like 2 weeks have involved like airplanes and plane movies. So like there's Top Gun, and then right there, Executive Decision, which I'm sure you have never heard of.
No, not at all.
Kurt Russell, Steve Seagal, John Leguizamo, the terrorists take over the airliner. Ah, it's the jet. It's like Halle Berry's in this one too. Good flick. Yeah, I mean look, I like that he's out there having fun. I like a little give and take when it comes to quarterback, like coach or offense coordinator relationships. I like conflict sometimes. I like this shit. Like it's you go back through the history books. All the greats used to have like, no, I'm doing this, and they would do it, and it's like it either works or it don't work. As long as you're not fracturing trust, right? I think what you have is you have a situation where the coaches probably say, "All right, Rook, do this thing," and he's like, "I think I can do the other thing." And the thing is, like, if it works out for him, maybe we can trust him to do a little bit more shit. If it doesn't work out, this is why I listen to my coaches. So it's like we're still in that territory right now where as long as everybody's taking it personal, fucking great. This is all part of the process. It's yeah, this is fucking awesome.
It's fucking awesome right now. Vibes are high as they should be. in August, while also knowing that we're cleaning stuff up. We're getting both things at once, right? So we're getting the positive reviews from the rookie quarterback who has only played the one drive in preseason so far, and it was a short one at that. And we're going to go ahead and see how he does in this one. I assume it sounds like he's going to play this one. We just don't know how long. A lot of the beat reporters seem to think it'll be maybe one extra drive, might just be the one drive again. We'll see.
I think it just depends. It's like I've been saying, it's not me putting Jayden in bubble wrap for the sake of putting him in bubble wrap. I want to see him respond to the speed of the game with poise and with confidence. And as long as he shows that to me, I'm good.
Yeah, that is fair. We go over to Allison New G Lombard. Shout out. There are 3 comments here. I will go ahead and read them, and then you can react to any of or all of them, K-Dot. All right. So beginning with Jamin Davis was a mixed bag on tape. He's 230 and has no experience on the edge. Try him out and see how he does, which is what happened, of course. He's a mixed bag on the edge. He's a complete liability. Think David Mayo off ball. So that's comment number 1 specific to Jamin Davis. Then here's the second one. James Bradbury is moving to safety, and most Eagles fans are still shitting on him. I love the move. Forbes has 0 business near the line of scrimmage. What about him playing safety? Is there value there? Okay, so we've got the Jamin Davis one. We've got Emanuel Forbes moving to safety as a question. Would there be value there? And here's the third one. Biggest disappointment from the game? Emanuel Forbes for sure. Is Jahan wide receiver 4 or 5? And to Allison's credit, this was 4 days ago. And now we've got the wide receiver 2 conversation. And then ranks, number 1, Terry McLaurin. Number 2, De'Ami Brown. Number 3, Olamide Zaccheaus. Number 4, Jamison Crowder. Number 5, Jahan. That seems a bit harsh, but I get that you're done trashing Forbes. Done. What about Jahan? Penn State has one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the country, and James Franklin, can't coach for shit. Jahan only makes sense if you have complete faith in your coaching staff. So, hitting on 3 of the names that we have been discussing. There's Jamin Davis being David Mayo on the edge, supposedly. Forbes maybe moving to safety, and Jahan Dotson being wide receiver 4 or 5. K-Dot, floor is yours.
I think there's way too much harsh negative language being used too soon in a lot of these cases.
I agree.
Bradbury getting moved to safety, I think people just want to shit on James Bradbury, but he's 31 years old. You've done enough at one position. Let's transition you on this other thing to see if we can keep it going. I'm cool with that. Like if you got enough on tape that like you got damn near 10 years of fucking tape on you, I could tell where the fuck who it is you are at this particular point in time, right? But I think that what we have to look at is like, and I think what we're seeing right now is them doing it in real time, is evaluating like, hey, look, we weren't the guys that evaluated these dudes that got drafted this fucking high, but we've got to see what it is we have with them. And the answer is we don't know. I'm not ready. Like, look, if anybody knows me, I don't fucking like talking about bust until there's absolute proof that that's the fucking case. And we're still too early on in this. We know that the last coaching regime did not do a great job with these guys. We know that this coaching regime does a much better job coaching up people, just historically. It's way too early to do that. I think this season is the big evaluating season, right? Like it's the know what it is this coaching staff is doing with these dudes and where it is that maybe their ceilings are if they need to pivot to doing something else. And we also see them trying them in so many different situations. Davis is all over the fucking place, or will be all over the fucking place by the end of this fucking preseason. Just them figure out what it is that he's excelling at, where it is we can use him, where it is that maybe he'll have a play or two that'll boost up his fucking confidence. They're doing that right now with Forbes as far as putting him on an island, right? How it is that he's responding. Is he going to get fucking down the depths if somebody beats his ass? Like, what's going on? They need to test these all these things here with these kids. And look, if at the end of this season you want to use that language based on what we've seen on the field of the whole fucking year with these guys, I might be more there with you. But I'm giving a lot of these dudes at least some benefit of the doubt that while look, no one should have the red carpet necessarily pulled out for them after what happened last season. I'm also giving them a lot of kudos in the fact that, like, yo, it was rough last year. What you got teaching-wise was rough.
The coaching staff has been upgraded degrees, worlds, etc. from last season. Across the board, it has been improved. So to me, That is giving everyone a clean slate. That is both a good thing and a not good thing. You can see it with Emanuel Forbes getting Joe Witt Jr. as his defensive coordinator and Jason Simmons as a defensive backs coach. If he could pick a staff for himself, this would be it. We have played one preseason game.
Right.
There is a lot of time to go still. If Allison, I don't know if you were already on our channel when I said that I think Emanuel Forbes' second half of the season, we're going to see some renewed confidence there, that I don't anticipate him starting early on. It's a process. And K-Dot, I got to give you credit here. You have to be probably the most patient Commanders content creator, like in terms of the way you see things in an environment where people are consistently engagement farming, trying to come up with a sensationalist bullshit. I think you're great at like, hey, relax, guys. Like, this is why we do long form stuff. Like, relax. This is a process. I think we're seeing that with Emanuel Forbes. I'm not moving him to safety. No, it's way, way too soon for that conversation. Jamin Davis being a mixed bag on the edge. He played one game on the edge, about 21 snaps. That happened last week. I would not expect him to suddenly thrive. It's going to take some time to see how he adapts to that. Then he's going to play some linebacker at some point, obviously. How does he do there? So lots of questions still. And Jahan Dotson, yes, he sounds like he's struggling right now, but I don't think that's permanent. I still believe in the talent. Again, we talk about rookie year. He's proven he can do it in the league. So how is he going to respond entering a make or break year? I believe he will respond. If he doesn't, so be it. We'll have that conversation. Right. But that's how I feel about those three players. Jamin Davis, Emanuel Forbes, Jahan Dotson. How do they respond? I think Emanuel, we're beginning to see nicer signs. Jamin Davis, I'm very intrigued. We talked about playing him on the edge. Jahan going through a bit of a rough spell right now. Does it mean that's who he is? Absolutely not. So we're going to go ahead and see where to go from there. Those are my comments on those. We go over to Earl Bruce, and shout out Allison for the questions. Appreciate those. And actually hit the nail on the head on pretty hot topics days in advance. Earl Bruce, shout out. How about Tress Way's tackle in the Jets preseason game? The man punts, passes, and tackles. I mean, for me, it was probably a top 3 highlight. So we have Jaden's throw, of course. Never mind, we don't even talk about the read option where he just jogs in. Doesn't even run in, jogs in. We've got the 3rd and 14 screen call that the Jets made where Frankie Louvu and Mikey Sainristil arrive at the same time violently, which I thought was awesome. And then Tressway's tackle got me so fired up, and the entire team fired up. And you see all the new faces fired up, getting to know Tressway. I think he has said he's going to stick with number 10 for the season. And so that was super cool. That's Earl Bruce's first comment. Any comment there, K-Dot?
Look, man, Tressway, you 6'1", 220. Maybe you make a name for yourself doing something other than kicking when I eliminate it from the game. As far as moments in the preseason, I put the Tressway thing as number 3 for me.
Yeah, it's number 3 for me right
now. Number 2 was Ben Sinnott's catch and carrying the entire Jets defense. That was... Yeah,
that's your football. That's the football you love.
Dude, I'm saying, like, all I know is that like there's a hive of people that have been really, really high on Ben. Because look, Brock was getting all the fucking glory. Like Brock was like clearly the guy. But there's a contingent of us. And if you type in his name, whatever on Twitter, you'll find us. And we're all like, that's what we were fucking saying. That's what we were fucking saying. He's the dude.
This may be a conversation for after the pod, but how many things are greater than, and it's early days still. It's early days for Jayden. My thoughts on him. Ben, your thoughts on him. How many greater feelings are there in life than absolutely nailing, right? Like let's fast forward 3 years down the line and we were both right. Like that feeling is incredible. We'll talk about that. We got 3 more from Earl Bruce.
So often for me, I can't.
Of course. Okay, cool. And that's why Earl Bruce says, I always share this shit because K-Dot is right more often than not with his words, which actually, to be fair, this past offseason, you were on one. I'll give you that.
There's one glaring hole in my history of this podcast. There's one, and I can't, and I'll never be able to recover from it fully.
Oh, yeah. No, I was tough.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, say it. Just make sure. Maybe I'm missing one.
Well, I mean, the Carson Wentz should start over Taylor Heineke was brutal, and I tried being nice about it, and then
all right, y'all kept slurping up that dude's fucking knob. All right, and it was just like,
who? Not me.
Taylor.
Oh, Taylor. Yeah, because he was fun. Anyway, maybe that's after the pod as well. Earl Bruce has
hang out with.
He has 2 more. I get that. I keep okay. You know what? That's after the pod. Earl Bruce, we fans should be excited for the future. Not this year, but 2 or 3 years from now. Playoffs, baby. That's what Earl Bruce is saying. And the other one, y'all should collab with Louis T and Rico from Street Scores, to which there are 2 thumbs up. So people would like to see that. Fuck it. Go ahead and reach out. See if they want to collab. I think that'd be a lot of fun, K-Dot.
You know what? Share this shit with those people. You know what? I want you to not spam, enlighten, spread the word, spread the gospel. If you think Louis T or any of these dudes are like, drop it in the comment section. You know, somebody might, I'm just saying, right? Be our disciples.
Be our disciples. Okay, stuff's getting to K-Dot's head here. We go over to Tony. Shout out Tony and shout out Earl Bruce for those comments over there. Great show, guys. But after that, I still want Brandon Ayuk. Sometimes you just need a wide receiver that's a dog in the huddle, and we don't have one. Maybe that guy is OZ or Diami, but right now, FOMO on Ayuk is stronger than wait and see. If Jahan is the best we have opposite of 17, I think we're in trouble. I know you both want to wait on Jahan, but I don't see it at number 2. In my opinion, he cannot create separation. Ron and them didn't draft Jahan 16th overall because he was fast, was a game changer, or for Yak. It was because he had sure hands. Debatable now. I just don't want to F around and find out. I'm just saying I don't want to F around and find out. Best thing about Jahan right now is being able to say JD to JD. Sharing initials, of course, with Jayden Daniels. So that seems to be the best thing that Jahan Dotson is bringing to the table right now. K-Dot, your reaction?
It's getting harder to know that Ayuk is out there with more conversations about the uncertainty at wide receiver 2 and not knowing or feeling as though, oh, if we went and got this dude, that conversation's over, right? So, like, that's going to be something that as long as this kind of drags on, I understand. I get it.
Right.
And even last week when I was talking about how looking as far as like what's I think most of it was centered around the expectations compared to Caleb and what it is they did in Chicago with surrounding him with all this talent compared to what it is they're doing with Jayden. I don't think that that's something the coaching staff is thinking about necessarily as much as it's like there is a road that we need to go on when it comes to evaluating players, this, that, and the other. But yeah, you'll hear me as time goes on, if there's still a discrepancy or there's still question marks about what's happening at wide receiver 2, while I'm not going to be beating the drum for Ayuk to DC, you're not going to hear me push back too much.
I would say at this point, the conversation is close to dead, even though we're having the conversation around wide receiver 2. One, it's late in camp. I know that Jayden has a rapport with Ayuk, but you have to realize, guys, so when Brandon Ayuk is maybe going to Pittsburgh, first off, it sounds like he's interested in going there. I would assume they have a contract they've agreed to. But it also means that right now, San Francisco has not agreed to compensation with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's one. They're trying to get a player back. Sounds like they're not. So they would want a player from us. Maybe it's Jahan. Let's play this out for a moment. It's going to cost more because it's in the conference. We would then potentially down the line be a direct rival to the San Francisco 49ers. Let's say they pay Brock Purdy and sort of have a ceiling, depending on what you think of him, to getting there, right? And they've traded him in division. So he is going to cost more for us than he would for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I just want to point that out as part of the conversation as well. Right. Go ahead, K-Dot.
I think the conference stuff outside of quarterback means a lot less than I think most people do.
But the 49ers are actually run kind of differently, I'm beginning to notice, relative to others.
I actually still think if I had to put money on it, he remains in San Francisco.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Because actually, the more and more
traded in the last 5 minutes.
Well, the thing is, the more and more you hear about some of the contract details of what some of these teams are offering, it seems as though him and San Francisco are not that far away. And I'm sorry, but any one of the teams I'm hearing about is not an upgrade over maintaining what you're doing in San Francisco.
Yeah. No, that's fair. We go over to Slim Sleazy with a quick one, but an interesting one. Sorry. I don't know what that was. Sorry. Our offense's main problem was Sam Howell. Eric Bieniemy had little to work with. K-Dot, I'm just going to leave that to you.
No. That's fucking ridiculous. We led the league in pass attempts. We were at dead last in the league at rushing attempts. That alone shows you what it is they gave a fuck or didn't give a fuck about somebody's development, especially a guy who's starting his first fucking season in the NFL. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Look, it was hard for me to get to a point where I wanted to fucking trash Eric Bieniemy. I did so much not to do that. I did so much to try to not do that to that man. I'm rooting for him. I'm going to call it what it is. I root for black fucking coaches to succeed in the NFL. That is important to me. Trust me, I'm at here some of the shit I say all fucking pod, especially Eric Bieniemy last year. Where I'm like, God damn it. Did you hear that press conference? There's nothing he said. He didn't say anything. But I refuse to use this platform to just tear down other black men for the sake of fucking doing so because it's either funny or whatever. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And if you need to take that and readjust the way you think about me or my takes on certain things, I get it. You'll usually always, I'm never lying on here. You'll hear me speak the truth, and you'll know when I take certain pauses, when I do certain things, there might be more I want to say about a person. But now, gloves are off, motherfucker. Like, dog, that was a fucking travesty last
year. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. I mean, and the easy tell is you had a quarterback that had a lot of confidence. We talk about confidence a lot. What did he look like at the end of the season? A total shadow of himself. So, and we'll see how he does in Seattle. So far, some people think he's good. Some people think he's not good, but he's going through, you know how many players are going through the current confidence issues? Like we're talking about it. So Jahan, we're talking about Emanuel. We're talking about Jamin. We're talking about Sam Howell. There's so many people who were so scarred by last season on both sides of the ball. You cannot say a coordinator did a good job. You just can't. So I would love to, Slim Sleazy, why don't you comment back on this video and explain? Because I would love to hear your explanation for why you feel Eric Bieniemy was good. I just don't see it considering how scarred everyone seems to look.
Because even when Jacoby came in, the ratio changed. It was like, what are you doing?
Whew. Anyway, yeah, I know Eric. Fucking hell, man. It's so far with Cliff. I'm happy so far. We go over to Big Papa Grizzly. And shout out Slim Sleazy again, though, because it's good to get. I mean, I enjoy the different opinions, but I
just want to understand it.
Yes, exactly. I do too. So Big Papa Grizzly goes, K-Dot, I love it when you call me Big Papa. Crying, laughing emoji. I'm right there with you, man. Member number 2 of the Sam Hartman Man Crush Fan Club. Start calling him HBK Heartbreak Kid, for those who don't know. Running out of sacks and straight into our hearts. Hashtag get heart. Hashtag share this shit. What a comment from Big Papa Grizzly there, K-Dot.
He thinks he's cute. I know he's sexy. He's got the looks that drive the girls wild. He got the moves that really move them. He sends chills up and down their spines. He's just a sexy boy. Sexy boy.
Is that a heartbreak
He's not your
thing?
Boy toy. Yeah, you don't know. HBK, man.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. Is Heartbreak Kid? Is that a wrestling? No, it is.
Yes, it's fucking wrestling. It's Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak
That's
Kid.
Right. I forgot.
I'm just saying his theme song, for Christ's sake.
No. I know. I just didn't remember which wrestler it was. That's all.
He's just a sexy boy. Look, he's not your boy toy. He's just a sexy boy.
I guess me every time.
He makes me feel like I'm on cloud 9.
Okay. We got one last comment from Jess Santo, and I see it this time, and I unchecked, I haven't responded, and made sure that I got everybody's comments.
Good job, Jess, because you gave that man the sweet chin music last week.
He goes, no hard feelings, fellas. You know I can't quit you. All is well in the Commanders battalion. My takeaways from the game. Number 1, the offense looked sharp, balanced, and efficient. Number 2, the defense was more aggressive. No one looked lost in the secondary. Number 3, the O-line caught me off guard. Pun intended. For all of the injuries, rotations, players playing out of position, and backups in, there were very few penalties. That's a good point. Very few penalties. In that situation, there should have been a lot more chaos. Well done, O-line coach Bobby Johnson. I might have been wrong about you. Number 3, Olamide Zaccheaus, Bryson Tremaine, and Wiley stood out. Austin Wiley stood out from the lesser known players. Did I say Austin Wiley? Mike Wiley. Stood out from the lesser known players. Number 4, this is the coach's science experiment. Guards were playing tackle for the first time since college. Wide receivers were being moved around in different spots, and they were testing Forbes in man coverage. That's all it was. They're figuring out who's good at what. Forbes was tackling better as well. Number 5, Tressway. Legend. Number 6, Jayden Daniels wearing a Doug Williams jersey to his first game was fucking amazing. There is something to Daniels. He has that it factor. I'll solely focus my take on him after the Dolphins game next week. I don't want Amit dehydrating on us. Stay thirsty, my friends. Love the show as always, and share this shit. That was Jess Santos' comment. K-Dot, your reaction.
I agree, Jess. Well, again, phenomenal job. You should have harder feelings than you do about what it is that this asshole tried to pull on you the last couple weeks, which I totally get. The other thing is look, you see that jug of water he has right there? It's still not enough to take over the amount of cocaine and sweating. So he's constantly losing hydration, right? So it's like when your heart's beating that fast because you got a resting heart rate of 156 because of the amount of coke you're fucking doing. It's
high. I'm playing. Keep going.
Just saying, he goes to doctor with
sort of
natural body is
101.2.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like your ad libs, but what I want them to do is I need them to breathe because a lot of times you don't even realize the truth at which you bring to illuminate us that we might necessarily need to read between the lines or give you the space so that we can understand and decipher how it is we can best help you or be there for you or support you in your problems and addictions.
Okay. Once again, that is A-Train, a fictitious character created by K-Dot. That does occasionally come out sans the cocaine, but the fictitious character
and
does.
You refer to him a lot. So, I mean, I just think at this point,
he is growing on me, to be fair. This was the Common Mailbag. This is District Divided, DC Sports Podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode where we recap the joint practice, talked again about the preseason game coming up tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern against the Miami Dolphins. I'm Amit, that is K-Dot, and if you enjoyed the episode, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and K-Dot.
He's just a sexy. He's not your boy, toy. Share this shit. He's just a sexy boy. He ain't your boy, toy.
Share this.
Guitar solo.
This is huge after the pod energy, which begins now, then, before. Oh, man.
All right, hold on. There's been a lot of wrestling references so far this episode.
There have been, sure, yes.
So there was my share this shit, which is the Generation X thing, and I did not know the HBK reference was going to be there, but I do love it. Are you familiar with Mr. Ass?
No, I don't think so.
So badass Billy Gunn.
Okay, go ahead.
So the dude that I did the Ladies and Gentlemen, Boys and Girls Children of All Ages, that was the road dog Jesse James, and his tag team partner was the badass Billy Gunn, who went by Mr. Ass. His finishing move was the Fameasser, the famous.
I remember there was like a Rashiki, something like
Rashiki.
Rashiki, yes, I remember him, and he had a similar.
No, sorry, Rikishi.
Rikishi. My apologies. Yeah, go ahead.
It was Rafiki. All right, good.
Yeah, not Rafiki. Sorry.
No,
I'm getting
Mr.
there.
Ass used to have his theme song to me still. I remember I bought I used to buy WWF like the theme songs on CDs when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
Because we would do like I was Stone Cold Steve Austin every time we would do like wrestling bits, and we put the music on. You have your entrance, and we would jumping off of things and like land on each other.
Oh, of course.
But Mr. Ass's theme song was incredible. There's actually like 10 years ago, there was a comedian or something that did like a breakdown of the song and the lyrics of the song, and it's great. I've always disagreed with him as far as what the lyrics or anything there or the song were or what he thought they meant. But it's basically the entire time. I'm an ass man. Dun, dun. Yeah, I'm an ass man. Dun, dun. Yeah. Good.
Well, I was just gonna say, just a real quick aside. You know how sometimes, like, people would ask. This is now years ago, but like, what was the first CD you bought? Right, like first album you bought, whatever. First CD you bought. And for me, it was in 5th grade, but it was not at all what everybody else bought. I bought the WWF intro soundtracks to like Chris Jericho, Robin. It was all on one CD.
This is what I'm saying.
My very first one was actually the intro tracks to a lot of my favorite wrestlers.
Crazy. Hey, that's nuts. See if you can find that CD and look up Mr. Ass's theme song.
It might be on there. Yeah.
The entire song is just about what he loves to do to asses, right? I love to love him. I love to kick him. I love to shove him.
This actually sounds shockingly familiar.
Love to float him. I love to
I think I've probably heard this. Yeah.
But later on down the song, you get this fucking heat. I'm talking about like it starts to transcend into something else.
All right.
Look, Buns of Glory, Buns of Steel. Your ass will give away the truth of how I feel. You walk behind me, I feel the heat. That's why the girls don't walk behind me down the street. Oh, he is dropping fucking bombs.
I would love to see you participate in a spoken word and just read that like you did.
All right, give me some snaps.
Yeah, demand the snaps as well.
Buns of Glory. Buns of Steel. Your ass will give away the truth about how I feel. Yeah. I just think it's deep. It gets deeper. It's like
well, the truth how I feel line goes hard.
Yeah, your ass will give away the truth about how I feel.
Because that's what he's going to do. Yeah, no.
So much about the way in which the things in which I want to do to your ass speak so highly. I'm so intuitive about asses that if I know what I want to do to that ass, I already know so much about you. But here's the thing. You're not allowed to walk behind me because I can't give you that. I can't give you the truth is in the ass, is what he's saying. And he won't allow you to see it. He won't allow it.
Oh, that is incredible. Not at all where I was expecting this after the pod to go when we started this episode. But I'm going to have to go give that track a listen now. Any other tracks you recommend from back in the day? We're talking about wrestling.
Well, yeah, HBK that I started singing earlier.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that again.
Classic. Stone Cold doesn't really have any lyrics, but it's awesome. I mean, there's still
Stone Cold. That's iconic.
The glass
shattering, always goosebumps.
And then The Rock. If you smell,
of course,
The Rock is cooking.
I love the Undertaker. Man. You're the dude. That was
Undertaker incredible. Has one of the best entrances. It's entirely too long, but it's a moment.
Yeah,
the music,
it's a great moment.
I will say, as much as I don't love this human being now, his American Badass era with the Kid Rock stuff and the motorcycle, that was pretty fucking dope. I'm a huge, Motorhead.
Yes.
As a huge Motorhead fan, rest in peace, Lemmy. I've always been partial to Triple H's shit. So time to play the game.
Yeah.
It's all about the game and how you play it. It's all about the game. You can take it. Like, it's just that shit. Or anytime that they would do like offshoot stuff, like Evolution. When it was Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, and Triple H, they were Evolution.
Yeah.
And Motorhead did Line in the Sand. I see the line in the sand. It's dude.
Man, wrestling was awesome back in the day. I'm just now like strolling down memory lane a little bit. Triple H, now was he the one that would take the water and
spit
if I
all
remember,
over
yeah,
everybody?
that was pretty cool too.
I just
Little
look.
mist.
I've been to wrestling events. I've actually sat ringside at one.
Okay.
Triple H was there. I was on the opposite side of the ring, so he did not spit on me. I don't know how I'd react to Triple H spitting on me.
No. Just to be clear, I don't want him to spit on me. I'm just saying on TV,
Yeah, but you're
it
gonna
looks
get
incredible.
stuff on you. So like especially look, I don't even know if he's allowed to do that post COVID. I think I have seen him do it, but
we're back. We're back.
Like LeBron and his powder or whatever. It's like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
Like, dog, you just spit on me. Like, what is this? Like, and I get it. And he just because when he spits, Triple H.
Yeah.
Shit. I was like, he was my favorite. Triple H is probably one.
I'm just imagining, like, you know how there are like executive producers on news channels. Like, you think about the newsroom and like the background. Someone's in his ear. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. He's like slowly sipping. He just lets it go.
Yeah, at this point, he's got it's required of him to do this shit.
Has to.
It's just, it has to be
Part of the persona.
But no, that wrestling era was
was incredible. And then you had the WCW, ECW stuff. You remember that?
I was never. So, are you talking about the merge, or are you talking about them as separate entities?
Them as separate entities.
Okay, I was a WWF kid.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
WCW. Every time I tune in, the Wolfpack stuff with NWO was kind of cool. Sting was kind of cool. I always thought Goldberg was just weird. He just seemed like he felt like a Stone Cold ripoff, which I know is not true, and there is some balance between the two. I love the spear, but I never loved his spear. Okay. I like Edge's spear more than I like.
Man,
Edge usually come out of fucking nowhere and just fucking take it.
Was it Christian and Edge? Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember. Edge and Christian, excuse me. Yeah,
but that was back when they were when they used to be part of the was it the Brood with Gangrel, whereas like the lights would turn out, they'd come back, somebody be covered in blood. Gangrel's bit was he would spit blood. So like he was the leader of the Brood. He would go up and do the Triple H bit, but he would spit blood. Or it was something red, just like fruit punch shit, but it like thick fruit punch. That was an interesting. And then Edge and Christian just became too big for the Brood, and Gangrel just sort of went away because they also had like Viscera. I think Mabel was part of it at one point, but that stable.
Who was like ECW's biggest star? I can't remember.
So ECW to me was just too fucking crazy. Because I remember ECW in the sense of like when it was just basically pay-per-view, and it was like all they're doing is like beating each other with barbed wire and tacks. And
shit! I didn't know about all that. I just remember when they entered the WWF universe. No, I remember that
merge. The merge. So
right,
that's what I'm saying. There's the merge when when Vince took them all, right?
Right.
And then you had ECW, somebody be like more hardcore. It almost became like the hardcore division of the WWF or WWE.
Right.
At that point, it just wasn't what it was.
Well, because that's fair. I just remember we did WWF versus WCW, ECW, and then Stone Cold turns in the middle of that match. You remember that?
It was so that was nobody knew what side Stone Cold was going to show up on, and he shows up that night where WWF's
side,
WCW was kicking the shit out of because it was the invasion,
right?
And they were beating the shit, and then Stone Cold came down and like cleared fucking house. It was like him, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, whoever was left.
Right, but he ends up stunning. I can't remember who it was, but that was how he turned.
Yeah,
I remember, dude, just being in like 4th, 5th grade when that happened was like, that was everything. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Like there was peak drama. Oh,
but that was Vince just took everything over, and then everything got kind of weird. It was the merger stuff was always just weird to me. Because and then you had to like Paul Heyman had to come into the mix, and you had Eric Bischoff, who just always felt weird with Bischoff.
I didn't really like Bischoff.
But that's the thing is like but even back then, this is like during the early days of like being on all the wrestle forums, WrestleZone, and all the forums, like trying to get the behind the scenes shit or trying to learn about this or picking up some of the magazines. I was
Yeah.
I was into it. But yeah, I was always a WWF kid. Like that was
Me
my
too.
shit. When other kids at school would talk about like WCW, I'm like, man, fuck that off-brand bullshit. I'm about the real shit here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think a lot of us were, right? Because when we were watching wrestling.
Are you a Hulk
watching
Hogan guy?
WWF. Yeah.
I was never really a Hulk Hogan.
I wasn't. A lot of people felt very strongly about Hulk. I really liked him. I wasn't one of those. I was like, okay, yeah, he's a personality. I mean, my favorite guys again were. I mean, everyone. I don't know. I like Stone Cold. Undertaker, Kane were like my favorite tag team. I just love those guys. Brothers of Destruction. Always enjoyed when they were on.
Kane with the mask was.
Kane with the mask. Yes. That was awesome. Like those were probably my favorite wrestlers when I first got into it. I would say it was Undertaker and Kane. I don't know about you.
The favorite wrestler will forever be Stone Cold Steve Austin. But the like it's not. There's a gap. I loved Stone Cold.
He's the fucking man.
The Rock. So when I was a kid, I could do the people's eyebrow. I can't really do it now.
That's the best I can do.
Yeah, I used to, and I was. It was like the theater kid, goofball kid. So I got all the wrestling promos like down. So like I still know most of them, I think, by heart. Like The Rock used to sing freestyle a lot. With the Heartbreak Hotel song, since the Rock's baby left him, he found a new place to dwell. It's right at the end of Jabroni, drive it down.
This is by the way, this is an episode for the ages. You've done a lot of singing today. I appreciate it. This is good.
When I first got in the podcast, when I was doing ASOS, rest in peace.
It's done officially. How long? You occasionally do one.
That's actually, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
It's over.
I was like, oh boy. Okay.
It's over. No huge falling out. It's just nobody cared. So,
yeah. Okay.
But I used to sing when we were audio only before we went to YouTube, like before the pandemic hit. I used to sing every episode. I remember the one episode after I got out of a really rough breakup. I had to do the pod like the following day after I got broken up to on the phone while I was dropping someone off at Reagan at like 4:35 o'clock in the morning. Really rough breakup.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And like hours later, I had to do the podcast and I sang the entirety of Alanis Morissette, You Ought to Know, because that's how I was feeling. And
I'm gonna go look through that episode now.
Oh, you can't find it.
Oh
no. So
I was hoping you'd at least keep it up,
brother. No, as far as ASOS early episodes, archive was burnt to crisp. We would never. It's not. I actually think they're quality episodes, but I'm talking about cancelable material.
Oh,
out of here.
Still figuring out who you were as a pod.
I'm gonna. Here's the thing. You guys, like, if you, I'll tell you a joke I made on the pod after we wrap this up.
Sure.
This
is a good time to wrap it up, actually, since we're since we blew past the hard stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks guys. We'll see you next week. I'm gonna hear this joke now. So until then, take it easy.
Bye, everybody. He's sick. He's not your boy toy, bitch.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.